Hello everybody, and welcome to my final panel of the con, Make Anime Great Again. Yeah, I'm excited too.
I love you.
Why? I haven't done anything yet. So this is a retrospective on trends in anime quality. My name is Max. I am the Foundation for Preservation of Gen 1 Pokemon because they're endangered and we need to save them. You can follow me on @5thGen, not PKMN, where I will live tweet bad Christian films and post the uploads of these panels, because I film them and then I put them on YouTube so 5 people can watch them. Except one which has like 200 views for some fucking reason, because no one has no one has good taste. So, To preface this, I've given this panel only once before, and before that it was 3 different panels, and I did it with 3 people. So if I get lost, I apologize in advance. It's hard to remember everyone's lines. So, to talk about making anime great again, we should probably start by going over the history of anime, which means that we need to go to the start. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking that's Japan, but it isn't. We have to go back all the way to America. Because while Astro Boy is generally credited as the first anime, Osamu Tezuka actually attributes a lot of his creative process to the Scrooge McDuck comics and Carl Barks, which would therefore reason that Astro Boy takes place in the Scrooge McDuck cinematic universe and is nothing but a derivative of DuckTales. Which means that Scrooge McDuck was the first anime. Now, know what you're saying, but it wasn't an animated series. Well, if you want to draw the line at the first serialized animated series, then we have Crusader Rabbit. You think I made that up, but I didn't. Crusader Rabbit was a animated series in the late 30s and early 40s. That was a play that made fun of radio dramas of the time, and of course traces a lot of inspiration from the Crusades. Little known fact about the Crusades: the first emperor of the Byzantium Empire was Scrooge McDuck, which therefore stands to reason that Crusader Rabbit is therefore based off of Scrooge McDuck. So instead of continuing that proud anime tradition, Astro Boy just started a new one that was equally derivative of the same source material. Which I believe means that I've empirically proven that Scrooge McDuck is the first anime. And we can all agree. And in fact, his legacy lives far and wide. Like, have you ever wondered why Super Saiyan hair is yellow? That's a direct reference to his vast wealth. Right? It makes so much sense now. So I'm going to talk about older anime, when Japan was first picking up on these American trends. So the first one was Astro Boy. This was published in 1952. Regretfully, the manga was not dubbed into English, so you know it's garbage. Fortunately, though, the anime adaptation was dubbed into English, so you know we're dealing with something good. And it came out in 63. Next we have Gigantor, which as we all know is a blatant Iron Giant ripoff. It is mostly known for its sketchy animations and being dubbed into English. So good job, Gigantor, you did it. Next we have Kimba the White Lion. There was a little more creativity involved here in adapting a Disney art piece, because this is very clearly based off of The Lion King, right? We can agree on that. But they at least recolored the characters. Unlike an Iron Giant, they didn't even do that. It's like they tried to trace him, but like they had a 4-year-old do it. So here are the recolored Lion King characters. This was released in the United States in 1965, and it was dubbed. Good job, we're on such a streak. Next, I'm actually showing you a reboot. This is Speedo Racist, which is the new white nationalist version of Speed Racer, which I guess I should talk about instead. So this is Speed Racer. Speed Racer came out in some time that I don't have listed on my notes, but it's noted for having very quick talking speeds and about 2 GIFs per episode for animation. So this is an entire episode of Speed Racer right here. So I might get reported for like DM, I forgot what the word is. Who cares? So after that, like binge of anime, wait, no, I know where I'm at. So what do all of these have in common? There are 2 things. One, they're poorly animated Lion King Disney ripoffs. Or 2, they're Disney ripoffs. I'm on this. Okay, so they're all poorly animated or Disney ripoffs. I know what I'm talking about. But there's one thing all of them had in common, which is, of course, they were dubbed. Therefore, anime is dubbed. If it's not dubbed, it's not anime. We have this. Specifically into English, which, as we all know, is a very comprehensible language. Far more so than the language of Japanese. And we can prove this because here we have a language tree. This is all Proto-Indo-European languages. There's English. It's under Middle English, which is under Old English, West Germanic, Germanic, Proto-Indo-European. Do you know what language isn't on here, though? Japanese, good job. Thanks for the audience participation. Do you want a prize? Yes. Good, I didn't want to give you anything. I have a bag of goodies, but none are for you. So, yeah, they're all, so this means Japanese isn't a language. To further drive this point home, I'm going to present to you a map. All the countries in green are countries that speak Indo-European languages, and all the countries in blue are countries that do not. As you can see, there are no countries in blue. Therefore, I have definitively proven that Japanese is not a language. Checkmate atheists. We're on a roll. So, after this renaissance of anime in the 60s and 70s, we kind of had a downfall. There wasn't a lot. And that was, of course, because Gigantor on a trade mission to Japan, where he was giving them Disney materials, and then he'd bring us back their cheap derivatives. He kind of fell into the ocean and became a glacier. So, bad news for you Gigantor fans, he died. But you know, after a while, he came back, and with him, there was a proliferation of dubbing companies. So we're gonna go over those. The first one is, of course, Adv Films, which, who cares? They kind of had a monopoly on the whole system of anime, which I would like to note is a terrible board game. And if you would like to see me prove that empirically, I already gave that panel today. But it's on YouTube. It's a bad game. Don't play it. Catan's also a bad game, in case you missed it in the breaking news thing, which is different on every slide, because I spent 4 hours on this. Oh, God. Okay. So, since they had a monopoly, that meant we had to do the only reasonable thing, which was resurrect Teddy Roosevelt to bust that trust. We could have had him do much more useful things, like build a canal through Florida to get rid of that fucking state once and for all. Or, I don't know, get rid of Walmart, but no. Adv Films is what he had to deal with. So, they broke Adv Films up into 5 companies. Those are Sentai Filmworks, Seraphim Studios, AE Star Holdings, Section 23, and Not Anime Network. I don't remember what it was actually called, but when I Googled it, that is what came up. Needless to say, these companies are so irrelevant that they don't even show up on Google searches, and I had to make up some images for them. The AE Star Holdings one is real, by the way. The Seraphim Studios is the one I made up. If I made up, I mean pulled from someone's DeviantArt account. But there's one good thing Adv Films did. Does anyone want to guess? Yeah.
They created Evangelion.
No, Ghost Stories, you piece of shit. If you're expecting a clip, you're not getting one. I took those out. So, Ghost Stories is easily one of the greatest artistic achievements known to man, second to only a few other things, which we will go into later. And the good thing about Ghost Stories is when they got the anime over and they were watching it in the fictitious Japanese language. They realized it was awful and made no sense. So they dubbed over it with whatever they felt like saying. And it worked out great. If you haven't seen the Ghost Stories dub, it's on YouTube. Go watch it right now. Just stop the panel, leave, watch it. I'm filming this, so by the time you finish, hopefully I've edited this and put it online. That's a lie, I'm really lazy. But the point is that the dub is so much better than the Japanese version. See the subtitles there, leave me alone, I'm doing my standard anime elbows up pose. That's from the dub. They don't say that in the Japanese version. They subbed the dub. How sad is that? What's wrong with them? I'm like Marco Rubio with water. Okay, who's our next dubbing company? We have Funimation, which brought fun to animation because before then, cartoons were boring. They dubbed such hits as Dragon Ball Z, which is everybody's favorite. Huh? I honestly don't blame you, it's not that good. But I'll defend it later, so don't worry. They also invented the meme. I'm really proud of them for realizing that over 9,000 sounds much better than over 8,000. And then just getting way too fucking dramatic about it. Other pieces of, okay, this one's kind of a sketchy piece of art, but we have Hetalia, which is not good, do not woo. Why are you waving? I totally didn't cosplay Russia once. So Hetalia is garbage, but the dub is almost viable, primarily because the accents are super racist. If you've seen the dub, you don't need to actually be watching it. You know who's talking based on the accent. That's it. Also, they of course dubbed the hit comedy Grave of the Fireflies. Whenever I am bummed out, I know that I can watch Grave of the Fireflies and it'll cheer me right up. Easily the most heartwarming story I've ever seen. Without a doubt, even funnier than Synecdoche, New York. One person, cool, we did it. That is a dark movie. Okay, so now we've gone over the good forces, now we're kind of on the Fire Nation of dubbing companies. 4 kids. Gotta keep the Avatar theme going. I don't care. Why would I talk about that? It's Sonic. It's not worth my time. If I'm going to read Sonic material, I'm going to read the Sonichu comics. And then kill myself. So, because really that's all you can do after that. There is no alternative. So what did 4Kids do? They focused on protecting our children from such dangerous ideas as rice balls. Rice is really dangerous. You can't fuck with that shit. And they wanted to make sure that children didn't understand the concept of hell, because really, when it comes down to it, the only person who should be allowed to teach you about hell are your bullies in middle school and your pastor. So they replaced it with the Shadow Realm. Or the Home for Infinite Losers. I know that was Funimation, but I'd like to think that was the 4Kids creative team's influence. But most damaging, they ruined the artistic integrity of the next show I'm going to go over. Look at that. What the fuck is that? Now I know what you're saying. The opening theme was bad, they ruined the overall tone with the actual dubbing. No, this is the true travesty. They're in Big Tootsie Pop's pocket. And let's be honest, what kid hasn't been exposed to some cool guy smoking? Now, if they really wanted to make this so child safe, there was really, the best option, of course, was putting clothes on Nami. But you can't do that, because then you don't have boobs. The final thing they did was ruin the childhood of Gen Xers everywhere by re-releasing E.T., but removing all the guns. Because as we all know, walkie-talkies are just as threatening as guns. Yeah, that's real. I mean, I'll say 4Kids did it, but they didn't. But yeah, they re-released E.T. and replaced all the guns with walkie-talkies, which is something I thought only 4Kids was capable of. Therefore, 4Kids did that. Huh? I don't care. That's revisionist history. What are you, a textbook in the South? So, now that we've gone over the forces of evil, I'm gonna go over Gigantor's triumphant return. We found him, we unthawed him, and he came back as Tom from Toonami, here to bring us miserable plebs the best anime ever curated for whatever audience Toonami was going for. Let's be honest, he's the reason you're here. Even if you didn't actually watch Toonami, he's the reason you know about anime. He brought us such classics as Dragon Ball Z, Outlaw Star, G Gundam, Tenchi Muyo, The Big O, which is definitely not a sexual reference, and Rurouni Kenshin. And they were all dubbed into English because that's how anime is done. Now, if we didn't bring Gigantor back, this would be the full extent of the anime community. Because, let's be honest, even if Toonami didn't exist, there would still be conventions for Sailor Moon fans. It would just be 5 people in someone's basement trading fan dubs. So now I'm going to go over a couple prominent anime from this era. First, we have Zoid's Chaotic Century. I know, no one liked waking up at 6 a.m. to watch that. Next, we had Zoid's New Century, which had more Zoids and more fighting. We, of course, had the hit series, Zoid's Trigun Century. See, this is where the laughs come in. And the relatively derivative Zoid's Pokemon Century, which we all know was a blatant Sesame Street ripoff. And the exceedingly violent, immediately banned Zoid's Hamtaro Century. I personally remember the episode where Boss single-handedly dismembered Bijou, Cappy, Maxwell, My Ham's Little Hamster's Big Adventures. Dragon Ball Z, that was an anime that came out, or a porn, I'm not sure. So what's great about Dragon Ball Z, it was very efficiently written, every episode mattered. Like Sum 41, it was all killer and no filler. If you missed an episode, you were doomed. The art was amazing, awe-inspiring. Even the Sistine Chapel sucks compared to any clip from this show. It had a fantastic cast of characters, all of whom remained relevant throughout the entire series, especially Yamcha, who was my role model as a child. And because the series was so good and so well written and so planned in advance, they just had to keep going. So we got Dragon Ball GT. I'm supposed to defend this, but I'm not going to. I mean, Roger Ebert thought it was good for some fucking reason, but his taste isn't always the best. So next we have another very prolific anime from this time, and that is, of course, Fooly Cooly, or if you're bad at cooking, Furry Curry. Fooly Cooly, of course, is the peak of animation quality. They did a lot of different styles, including a South Park style, because the Japanese can't go more than 5 minutes without ripping off us superiorly creative Americans. The plot is incredibly concise and coherent, and the story is very deep. You probably don't understand it, and you never will, because you're 13, and that's how this works. But really, what's notable about Fooly Cooly was it had 6 episodes, but a 3 CD soundtrack. As a note, the same studio made Gurren Lagann. That series used 1 song. And only 1 song. So, you know, maybe music makes it a better series. But is it the greatest anime of all time? No, it's not. The next series features prominently characters such as Toru. That's Fruits Basket. That's maybe like a top 100 if you're stretching. Just again, hit characters such as Toru. Hit characters such as, okay, that's fine. This was, of course, Ganondorf's breakout anime role. Before this series, Ganondorf was generally known for being an all-powerful tyrant, but this really helped him show off his comedic chops and flexibility in roles. And that really helped develop him going forward with such games as Legend of Zelda, Harp of Destiny, and Downward Dog. But of course, the anime we were talking about is Jackie Chan Adventures. I can't go a panel without this. So right now I'm working on a reboot. I'm trying to work with Crunchyroll primarily because they seem like the only ones dumb enough to work with me on this. Now I know we're asking for a lot of money, $100 million for the pilot of the trailer. But real art takes time and finances, especially when not only are we going to have Tom Hanks voice Jackie Chan, but we are going to have him draw every panel of the trailer by hand, because if you're good at one art, you're bound to be good at all of them. That's how it works, right? It's going to be great, easily the best series ever made. But we'll get there eventually. So now that we've kind of covered, peak anime, we're going to go into what happened. And my main theory about what happened is crap genres. Back in the 90s and 2000s, everything was sick tournament arcs, and as we all know, sick tournament arcs are the peak of anime greatness. But now we started getting garbage, like mega arc shows. Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, not Dragon Ball Z. You know what I'm talking about, because Dragon Ball Z, unlike these, had a clearly defined storyline from beginning to end that was hashed out before Akira Toriyama even started drawing Dragon Ball. But what it comes down to is One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach, they're hot garbage, except, of course, for Bleach, the beverage, which is delicious and nutritious. And I highly recommend drinking it. Don't drink Bleach, it's bad for you. But basically the creative process for these shows is they have someone sit down, bang their head on a wall a lot, and then whatever they write out becomes the plot. And when that person comes out of ideas, they just make the tits on all the characters bigger and go again. Why are you excited about that? You can watch other things for that. You don't need to watch One Piece. The next genre we have is slice of life anime. This is basically cute girls doing cute things. So if you like this genre, we do have some men in suits outside. They would like your name, age, and internet browsing history. And you know where I'm going with this, you are not going to return. So basically, what is slice of life anime? It's people living through mundane experiences. It's presented often lacking plot development, conflict and exposition, and having an open ending. I would like to note that I didn't even have to edit Wikipedia for it to say this. It already did, which means that the free, trustworthy encyclopedia is on my side. Slice of life is garbage. When it comes down to it, though, why would you watch this? Because you're literally watching people go through normal life events, which seems to indicate you don't have life events. Which I guess is true because you're at an anime convention. I might have to take that back. This is fine for you. I mean, there's a whole episode of Lucky Star where all they do is talk about how to eat candy, but, let's move on. Next we have harem animes. Harem anime is, of course, the most unrealistic because when have 5 girls ever wanted to fuck any of you? Let's be honest. Even one is a stretch. Which means that this is so unrealistic. We should instead be focusing on what an actual harem anime is. Now, a real harem anime, of course, is when you are seeing a girl, and what happens is your friend wants to fuck her, and a couple other people want to fuck her. And she can't handle the situation because she's not used to knowing so many people want to fuck her. So she breaks up with you, but then she says she made a mistake and she wants to try again, but she needs some time, so could you just wait? And then she starts fucking someone else and brings them to the trivia nights you host and refuses to leave. so you find a job in Denver and move out of California, which is definitely not from experience. Moving on, the real problem here, of course, is that the characters never pick the best girl. We all know the best girl is always the tsundere, never anyone else. And no one ever does that, right? Like, they make it to like top 2, top 3 before they fall out. So we're going to go over a history of best girls. And what better way to do that than by analyzing US presidents? So first we're going to go over Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan did actually pick the best girl, and that was Gorbachev. This is the two of them recreating a scene from Brokeback Mountain. It's of course, this is confidential footage. No one can know that Ronald Reagan was secretly gay. Next, we have George H.W. Bush. He did not pick the best girl. He picked Saddam Hussein. And that was a very fraught relationship where he definitely invaded Hussein in ways he did not want to be invaded and took most of his oil. So that didn't go well. Next, we have Bill Clinton, who also did not pick the best girl. He was close. Hillary was fine. But no, he had to go for Lewinsky. And just, come on, Bill. Next, we have George W. Bush, who pulled some graduate level shit and went with the same girl his dad did, which was again wrong. Come on, Georgie. This, of course, ended much worse for Hussein than the first time around. Next, we have Obama, who had a lot of picks for options for best girl. There was Angela Merkel. I don't really know who else, because when it comes down to it, there's only one pick, and that was Joe Biden, who loves ice cream and trains. And really, when it comes down to it, what do you need in your life besides someone who loves ice cream and trains? Joe Biden is objectively the best girl. The thing is, Trump really isn't in that part. Oh, wait. Trump really isn't in that part of his presidency yet where he's settled on a girl. But let me assure you, both of his options are awful. We have shirtless KGB agent and Little Rocket Man. And neither are going to end well for us. So, speaking of Kirito, virtual world anime. No, nothing? Okay. Oh, you guys like this shit? Good, I was concerned. The only good thing about Sword Art Online is the abridged series. Yeah. So, what's the problem with virtual world anime? The conceit here is the creator of the virtual world series admits that they cannot actually create a universe where their virtual world exists for real, so they then have to make it fictional within their fictional world. If you're gonna make a cool world, don't acknowledge it's fake in your own universe. You're completely devoid of creativity. Just because you can't think of some reason for people to not be able to die in a city, but be able to die out in the countryside, doesn't mean you should use a virtual world. It means you need to go through and work on your world building. It's not particularly hard because they already gave you a goddamn green light. Put work in it. This is even sadder than professional sports. Professional video games, esports. Because at least these people acknowledge the virtual world they're playing in is fake. And you know that going in. That's all I have. I was very angry. Next, gay sports anime. I would like to... Wait, where's my mouth? There we go. I would like to note that it's only a gay sports anime if it's all guys. Because they are literally playing with sticks and balls. That's why. They're all basically the same thing except Yuri on Ice, which I guess is fine. That's what my friends told me to say. Though I honestly believe that the incest storyline was done much better in the movie Blades of Glory. So what's the problem with this? First of all the characters are always the same. There's no variation. They're just the same 5 tropes over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. and they're just set up for shipping, and it's just shipping, and there's pointless drama, there's no plot. The closest thing to a plot they have is a tournament arc, which is only good if you're a 90s anime. And like if they're gonna do plot progression, it's like, hey, I need to get better at dribbling a basketball. So they have a whole like thing about them getting better at dribbling a basketball, and then it's relevant once, and then it doesn't matter. But really the worst part here is the fan art. And oh, that's real art. I do not want to know where that goes. The next genre we have is actually worse, and that's pedo bait. Pedo bait is a genre wherein they go out of their way to explain how the 12-year-old is legal. Like in Moon Phase, where the main character is a 20-year-old photographer, and he finds a 12-year-old vampire, but it's okay because she's actually 1,000 or some shit, so they can totally do it. And this genre is awful. If you watch it again, we have men in suits outside. But there's only one time it's been done well, which was, of course, with Ed, Edd n Eddy. This is the one time that Rule 34 has not destroyed, pedo bait has not destroyed a show. So now that I've gone over what genres are destroying anime, I think I might as well go over what companies are destroying anime, and that is, of course, Crunchyroll. What's wrong with Crunchyroll? A lot of things. First of all, they only have subs, which means they don't even have anime. Which we've established earlier, dubs are anime and subs aren't, right? I laid that out, we're good, cool. Next of all, Crunchyrolls aren't even a real sushi. If you're gonna name yourself after a sushi, name yourself after a fucking sushi. Don't just pick a weird word and add roll to the end. Could have been California roll. For some reason, you could have been a Philly roll, a dragon roll. Though that would have been fine, actually. You would have gotten more neckbeards. But no, you're a Crunchyroll. Next, they're very particular about the money, except, first of all, they accept money, which is wrong. Kiss Anime does their work for free. But the real, What? Nothing? Okay, I imagined it. Okay, so, fuck you, you ruined me. Okay, so Kiss Anime does it for free, Crunchyroll demands money, and worst of all, they demand real currency. They won't accept famous cryptocurrencies such as Dogecoin, which is, wow, much coin, how money? Which, let's be honest, is the best currency that exists. And I don't know why we haven't adopted it as the international standard yet. I'm upset. As you can tell, this panel was made so long ago, it says Bitcoin somehow still going strong, which we all know is a lie at this point. Has it recovered?
No.
No, okay.
It's crashed.
What's it worth now?
It's like $27.
I remember when it was worth like $6, and I almost got in on it. That's even worse than when my dad sold his Apple stock. Okay. Other problems, of course, is that they do not have real anime on Crunchyroll, such as DuckTales or Jackie Chan Adventures, or Cory in the House 2. Cory in the Houser, which we all know is real. But even worse, and this is going to be the most lost slide on all of you, they hired this guy, Miles Express 999, who runs their social media. I highly recommend sending him hate tweets. Primarily because it's fun. I went to college with him. You can do that. We did student government together. It was awful. So Crunchyroll's ruining anime. But you know what else is ruining anime? You. You are ruining anime. Primarily fandoms, because fandoms are a hot dumpster fire. So before we start on this, I'm going to have to go into the history of fandoms so you understand what trash we're dealing with and how they started existing. And that is, of course, the internet. Thank you, internet. You gave us memes, but you also gave us fandoms. Now, before the internet, it was relatively hard to meet people with niche interests, especially because it's so hard to leave your parents' basement. That is why, of course, we're at this convention, which is held in a basement. It's like home. I don't live in a basement. I live in a 200 square foot studio. Much better. God, I don't have room for. I don't have a TV. I have a projector. That's where I'm at. Okay. So, unless you lived in a large city, it was hard for you to meet other people with shared niche interests. This is why, like in San Francisco or Chicago or whatever, you still might find anime clubs. But if you lived in who the fuck knows Idaho, when someone asked you what anime was, you went, who the fuck knows? But you were also probably really into like white nationalism, but there was no one around you for you to talk about with that either. So there's some good things about this. Primarily there was less of it. The networks were less attached. Geography is a big obstacle in establishing populations. That's what internet solved. Suddenly, with the invention of the internet, you could go online and find a forum for your reverse trap hentai fetish. And no one would judge you for it. Or, I don't know, you could go on Stormfront and shout backwards positions about other races. Stormfront is a prolific white nationalist forum. I just want to rip on white nationalism. Really, these panels are just a front for me to shit on Trump. But basically, because the internet allowed you to reach out to these people in these niche interests, suddenly these views in fandoms that would have otherwise been considered toxic were able to proliferate. Which means you got shitty fucking people. And some people kind of escaped into it. Hey, look, it's Oron again. So, yay, why are you... Okay. So the basic conceit with escapism, our lives are garbage, that's objectively true. You're at an anime convention. So you have to escape into another world or reality. Like, I don't know, Sword Art Online. Yeah, get out of here, Bubsy, I don't like you. He followed me on Twitter, unlike you losers, though, so... Don't dab, that just ruined it. He's not getting a free shirt now. So, where was that? So yeah, your lives are awful primarily because you're at an anime convention. You just paid $40 to hang out with a lot of people who don't know how to shower. You're also consensually affiliating with Hitalia fans. And worse yet, Homestucks. Why are there still Homestucks? You're living in a fantasy world, which is even worse than the one from Sao. Another fantasy world you're probably really obsessed with, of course, is Japan, which, as we all established, doesn't exist. And you're here to, connect with people with similar delusions. Like, I don't know, maybe Goku could beat Superman. You feel that way, or some other weird shit. But you subscribe to some alternative realities. So you come to meet people who also subscribe to alternative realities. I'm really sad you can't read any of this. Gender neckbeard. Looking for male order bride. Age 14 to 88. 999 miles from Moscow. Cock fetish. 10 out of 10 only. Alpha search. I really like using inspect element. That's my favorite part of the internet. Basically, you start looking for people who share your fake news and shit. I'm saying that the anime convention is no better than Trump singles. That's where I'm at. The next issue with fandoms, of course, is Headcanon. This is where you begin to dictate the reality of the fake universe that someone else created and has no say in. A good example of this is Night Vale, wherein the fandom collectively decided what all the characters looked like, and if you had a differing opinion, you weren't in the fandom anymore and might have been found in a ditch bloodied and dead. Now, basically with Headcanon, you're just going to fill all the plot holes and other issues that the creator left out. And because you're uncreative swine, you of course fill that with Shadow the Hedgehog and Spy. And I mean, look at him. He is edgy as shit. But that does not mean he belongs in Sesame Street. But maybe Shadow the Hedgehog is too much work for you. Because, if you put him in, you have to come up with an excuse for it. So it might be easier to, create your own OC to put in that universe. Which is really easy, because all you do is just, Control-I, and then throw a mustache on it and you're good. And I mean, why operate in a universe where the characters are well established, such as Domcha, when you could instead put in your OCs like Ronick and Pales, who do whatever you want because that's so much easier. This is, of course, there's one exception to OCs, which is, of course, my OC, Bigger the Catter, who will soon be announced for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. It's just days. Just days. He'll be in there. If he's not, I will launch an angry tweet campaign. And you better take part, otherwise I'll know that you are not on my side. The next problem with fandoms is shipping. Shipping is where you establish trade networks between countries to trade goods and services. Sometimes you may put in tariffs because you ultimately believe trade is a zero-sum game that no one can win, because you subscribe to historically failed economic policies such as mercantilism. And, oh, that's not what this is about. Shipping is where you wildly speculate over whether or not two characters are doing it. Huh?
Bernie Sanders also believes in tariffs.
I know, but he also believes that trade should exist. Yeah, no.
I don't know. They both suck at economics.
Hey, he's better, but let's not have a policy debate. Okay, so the difference is he's not president. Okay, so shipping, I know, right? Right. Okay, so shipping. Shipping was originated from the Usenet forums for X-Files. Because when you think toxic fandom, you now have to think X-Files. Where people wildly speculated over whether or not Mulder x Scully would be a thing. Slash was incorporated through the Star Trek fandom when somebody successfully cornered Gene Roddenberry and asked him, hey, is Kirk / Spock a thing? And he said, fuck if I know. Which, sure, why not? I don't care. Which, for these people, anything that isn't no is yes. And no is maybe. So they're much like frat bros. Though I would like to note that Shatner is actually an amazing musician. His cover of Common People is top 10 song. Okay, so this is another slide my friends put in. I'm supposed to defend this, but I of course will not, because unlike my friends, I don't have trash taste. Speaking of Code Geass being trash taste, gatekeeping. Cultural gatekeeping is, of course, when somebody, gets a panel and tells you things like subbed anime isn't anime, or 5th gen isn't Pokemon, or, no, it isn't, though.
Dude, you're right.
Yeah. Or, Code Geass is garbage. So yeah, it's basically when elements of a fandom kick other people from the fandom out. The best and most prolific example within nerd culture is nerd culture itself, because we're generally sexist pigs. Yeah, I know, right? I'm gonna open your eyes, guys. So, if you've been exposed to any media growing up, you will notice that the general nerd characters are men. So it's very easy for us to acknowledge men can be nerds, because that's how we're raised, and being filthy nerds, everything we've learned about societal cues are from these shows. So when a girl comes up to us and is like, I'm a nerd too, we're like, wait, I didn't see that on my Saturday morning cartoons. I'm confused, I need to quiz them. It's the only way to prove it. But if a guy does it, it's like, sure, come on in. I don't care if all you've played is Call of Duty and watched Bleach, you're cool. Basically what I'm saying is stop quizzing people. They can be nerds if they want. Unless they like Gen 5 Pokemon, then they're objectively garbage. And we can all agree on that. So next we're going to go into fandoms as identity. This is the biggest problem. In a big non-geek example of this is, of course, juggalos, where people get face tattoos to brand themselves and drink exclusively Faygo, which I did try, so I could speak from experience. When I say Faygo is disgusting. They use sugar and artificial sweetener. It tastes like cough syrup. It is the worst. Do not drink Faygo. If you drink Faygo, you are objectively not a person. Another terrible fandom identity is Deadpool cosplayers. They're the worst. They go up to you and they keep talking to what? Are you looking for them? Yeah. Okay. If there was a Deadpool cosplayer, they'd be behind me right now doing a dance. And I don't see anyone. I don't care. They're awful. Let's not say Deadpool's bad, but these people are bad because they're annoying as shit. I know what you're going to say. They're in character. I don't care. They're still annoying as shit. If I want you to leave me alone, leave me the fuck alone. The final identity fandom we have, of course, is the worst. It indoctrinated millions of young people with a ridiculous ideology. It made its author exceptionally wealthy and granted them excessive power and social influence. It still has followers to this good day for no good reason. It's read by people who identify as grand wizards, and its fans occasionally dress up as ghosts. What am I talking about? Harry Potter. It's the worst, because fucking everybody puts their Hufflepuff on their Tinder profile. And that's really what started this, because who the fuck self-identifies as Hufflepuff? What's wrong with you? It's like admitting that you're a loser. So now we're going to go into what killed anime. Not just like the downward trends, but what actually killed it. So we got some theories here. The first one is peak anime. So basically, anime is a finite resource that we have to mine from the earth. And what happened was in the 90s, we were producing a lot of it, and there weren't a lot of series. So we kind of burned all of the anime we had mined into these series, and that made them amazing, especially Jackie Chan Adventures, which we burned all of our reserves on as well. But like any party, it was too good to last, so we've been mining less anime as time goes by, but producing more series. So not only is there less anime to go around, but there's more series to allocate it to, which means everything is trash. And there's really no way out of this. Even if we drive electric cars, we're all going to die. The next theory, though, I think this one also makes a lot of sense, which is, of course, it's Harambe's fault. Harambe, yeah, I don't care how dead that meme is. It's coming back. Got it. So, Harambe was Q was going to deliver a boxed set of Dragon Ball Z into Harambe's enclosure, where he would then binge watch it over a weekend, and he would awaken and turn into the Golden Uzuru and rampage anime greatness throughout the world. However, what happened was Robert Mueller was onto him. So he dropped a kid in the enclosure, so he had an excuse to assassinate Harambe. This is the real deep state conspiracy. The collusion stuff's real. But this is the problem. So now that we've identified what killed anime, how do we fix it? You can't. I lost the receipt. So we can't return it. We're just kind of stuck with this shit. So it's kind of like we're in the singularity. And if we were in the accretion disk, we might have been able to spin out, but we're not. So we're fucked. So really, our only option is to progress as a culture to at least be worthy of good titles from anime past. And the first step in doing that is taking a shower. Trim your beard, keep it organized. That's just personal hygiene is important. Next is divorce your waifu. Even if it's Nick Cage. I know that Nick Cage is a dreamboat, but divorce him now. Even if you have to pay some alimony, it'll be fine in the end. Next is, of course, stop doing whatever the fuck this is. I'm really not sure what's going on here, but don't do it. And now I'm going to go over the responses you obviously have real quick. Am I nostalgia tripping? Duh. And am I serious? Of course I am. So, I'd like to give a special thanks to Funimation, Toonami, and 4Kids, but specifically not to Crunchyroll. Basilius Scrooge McDuck I for inventing anime and the Crusades. Not you, because you've ruined this for all of us. Jackie Chan Adventures for being the peak of anime greatness that has inspired us all. The English language for being comprehensible, and of course the DuckTales cinematic universe for being even better than the MCU. So you can follow me on Twitter at 5thgen, not PKMN. I'll let you know when I'm going to IHOP, because IHOP is the only acceptable fandom in the world. You can go on YouTube, 5thgen is not Pokemon, there's also a link on the Twitter. I upload these panels, so if you want to see it again for some fucking reason, you can do that.